What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne Yang with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. A new deal that will see Taiwan semiconductor giant TSMC invest $100 billion in U.S. chip manufacturing will make the country stronger. That's according to Taiwan's Premier Zhuo Rongtai. But the presidential office says the plan must help, not hurt, the country's overall competitiveness. Joyce Zhen reports.
Hello, everybody.
A big announcement from the White House as U.S. President Donald Trump and TSMC Chair and CEO C.C. Wei agree on the largest foreign direct investment in the country's history. Taiwan's TSMC unveiled that its total investment to the United States will reach $165 billion US. The move a way to avoid Trump's tariff threat of 25% or higher on imported chips, as Trump eyes a larger goal of bringing chip manufacturing to the United States.
The most powerful AI chips in the world will be made right here in America. And it'll be a big percentage of the chips made by his company. But as you know, they're based mostly in Taiwan. And they're far and away the biggest. There's nobody even close.
TSMC is the unmatched leader in making advanced semiconductors, powering cutting-edge tech like AI from customers Nvidia and Apple. The firm's head, C.C. Wei, shared details of the plan from the White House, which includes 5 more facilities to its existing over 1,001-acre site in Phoenix, Arizona, and a center dedicated to research and development.
We are going to build 3 more new fabs after we promised 3 fabs already, and another 2 very advanced packaging fab, and most important, R&D center also in Arizona.
In recent weeks, Taiwan's all-important chip industry has been in focus following Trump's tariff threats and his repeated accusations that Taiwan stole American chip business. Though Taipei does not share official diplomatic relations with Washington, the two share robust unofficial ties. The U.S. is also Taiwan's largest arms backer in the face of a Chinese threat of invasion. In Taiwan, TSMC's leadership has created a sense of protection from external threats, a so-called silicon shield. Some fear that TSMC's expansion overseas will take away from its advantage. Taiwan's premier responding to the expansion, saying it will in fact strengthen and extend Taiwan's power.
我觉得产业界去做全球的布局，对台湾都是力量的延伸。只要在合乎国家的战略
Meanwhile, in Washington, Trump was asked whether TSMC's added investment would, quote, minimize the impact to the U.S. in regard to the chip sector should China decide to isolate or take Taiwan by force.
This would certainly, I can't say minimize. That would be a catastrophic event, obviously. But it will at least give us a position where we have, in this very, very important business, we would have a very big part of it in the United States. So it would have a big impact if something should happen with Taiwan.
Though acknowledging a potential conflict over Taiwan as catastrophic, Trump did not say if TSMC's investment would come with U.S. security assurances for Taiwan. Trump and TSMC's Wei instead focusing on the thousands of high-paying jobs the added investment will create. Luffy Lee and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
For more on this, Joyce Zhen spoke with Dave Nicholson, Global Technology Advisor at Futurum Group. She started by asking what the announcement reveals about TSMC's relationship with the United States.
I think you really have to be fair and look at this across the 3 administrations. The goal has been the same for the Trump administration and the Biden administration. The methods may be different, but the end goal is the same, to have some measure of security in the semiconductor supply line in the U.S., and then some domestic support for the economy. But if you look at overall TSMC production, I think analysts say, I think we're looking at somewhere between 5 and 10% of overall production would end up eventually being in the U.S. So it's not a massive hit to the Taiwanese domestic market. It was estimated to be about 5% before the estimate today. It's hard to say if the estimate today or if the announcement today means that that will triple with inflation-adjusted dollars and everything else. But I think it's fair to say that it's still low double digits at the most.
The main stakeholders here are obviously the US, TSMC, and Taiwan. What are each getting out of this investment, and what would you say is the impact on Taiwan's so-called Silicon Shield?
This is manufacturing. So the prowess that TSMC has, the dominance that TSMC has globally, I don't think is affected either way. On balance, the main benefit is to the US domestically in terms of jobs. I think that the relationship between the United States and Taiwan is as important as it ever has been. So if there are benefits that I can see in terms of tighter relationship in the event that things get more worrisome from in terms of pressure from China, this can be functionally the equivalent of a closer relationship with the United States. I think this level investment is a good investment in Taiwan's security, and it does strengthen that shield that you're talking about. But it's a legitimate concern moving forward. You don't want to give up a lot more in the future.
That was Dave Nicholson, Global Technology Advisor at Futurum Group. China has responded to Donald Trump's latest 10% tariff on Chinese goods, announcing levies of its own on several U.S. products. Louise Watt reports.
Beijing said it would hit back against tariffs, and it has. It's placed an additional 10 to 15% on some U.S. imports of food and agricultural goods to come into effect on March the 10th. Now, China says it doesn't want a trade war, but it's responding to the US tariffs, the latest rounds of those. China's Commerce Ministry has urged the US to withdraw its tariffs, and it says this is just simply going to harm bilateral trade. Now, what kind of impact is this going to have? Well, China is the #1 market for US exports of agricultural goods, so analysts expect it to have a significant impact on bilateral trade and also to hurt American exporters and farmers. So in this latest round of tit-for-tat tariffs, China has upped the stakes, but it probably still hopes to leave room to negotiate a way out of this. Eason Chen and Louise Watt in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
The United States has imposed 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. President Trump had earlier threatened to hit the two U.S. trade partners with import tariffs, but pushed his plans back by a month after negotiations. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he will impose reciprocal tariffs on the U.S., while Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said that there is a plan to counter the U.S. trade penalties. Taiwan's defense minister says Taiwan is vital to U.S. interests due to its strategic position in Asia and that Washington cannot afford to lose out on the Indo-Pacific. His comment comes just days after unprecedented scenes unfolded in the Oval Office during Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit. That's triggered concerns over what a U.S. commitment to Taiwan would look like. Jaime Ocon has more.
Tensions around Taiwan are heating up, with Chinese military ships and aircraft stepping up operations around Taiwan like never before. During a media roundtable on Monday, Taiwan's defense minister, Wellington Koo, expressed his concern over China's increasingly aggressive behavior. Most recently, a sudden and unannounced shooting drill in international waters just 75 kilometers away from the major port city of Kaohsiung.
最近这一次在这个我们高雄的外海，这是一个很典型的一个灰色地带的一个袭岛，那也加大对我们军事威慑的力度。那这个我想配合这些其他一些非军事的手段，来持续对我们压迫。
This rare media roundtable comes at a time of growing anxiety in Taipei about the way U.S. President Donald Trump is approaching foreign policy. Just days before, much of the world was blown away by the fierce exchange between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Trump over the war in Ukraine. When asked how Taiwan feels about the exchange and the U.S.'s commitment to its defense, the minister was confident that Taiwan and Asia as a whole is much too important.
美国它的所需要面对的军事安全的层面来看，我不认为美国可以，就说 can afford 去失去印太这个区域。那所以我们就因此应该有共同的目标。
Koo says that Taiwan's location in the Indo-Pacific is vital to U.S. interests. He says Taiwan sits at the center of the so-called First Island Chain, a strategic line of islands that stretches from Japan down to Vietnam. If Taiwan is lost, this would make it harder to contain China's military. But given the Trump administration's transactional approach, there's growing consensus in the U.S. that Taiwan should take greater steps to enhance its own security.
Taiwan needs to place itself in a position where, yes, it's great to hope for the best, as clearly the minister was suggesting, but it also needs to plan and prepare for the worst. And I think myself and others have been long calling on Taiwan to spend more on its defense.
While it's far from guaranteed that the U.S. would intervene directly in a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, there is concern from Washington that Taiwan isn't moving fast enough to boost its defense, with repeated calls to raise spending and incorporate more realistic combat training.
The question in my mind is the degree to which Taiwan is an essential or existential piece of our strategy for dealing with China. And there, I think the jury is very much still out. I think that if the Trump administration has to play the role of convincing Taiwan to find a way to convince itself to take its own defense seriously, Taiwan is already in trouble.
As both Taiwan and the U.S. work towards their own interests, a clear plan to deter China together seems to be missing. That's despite Defense Minister Koo warning that a war in Taiwan would not just affect regional security, but could also shape a new world order. Scott Huang and Jaime Okan in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's main opposition party, the Kuomintang, has proposed increasing military salaries to address a shortage of volunteers. The opposition says the voluntary soldiers' pay should increase from around $300 per month to just over $900, citing the low wage for the lack of recruits. The Kuomintang has also put forward a monthly pay increase for conscripts from around $650 to over $860. The military has sought the opinion of Taiwan executive branch on the opposition's proposal. Singapore is investigating if a server fraud case involved Nvidia chips and where the hardware was sent. 3 men, including a Chinese national, were charged last week with allegedly defrauding server suppliers by misrepresenting the final recipient of the hardware. Singaporean media have linked the case to the alleged movement of Nvidia's AI chips to Chinese artificial intelligence firm DeepSeek.
They supplied to Singapore-based companies, and from Singapore it went to Malaysia. The question is whether Malaysia was a final destination or from Malaysia it went to somewhere else, which we do not know for certain at this point.
This case comes amid a broader crackdown on Chinese companies evading U.S. chip export controls with the help of third parties. Japan is fighting massive wildfires that local media say are the biggest it's seen in decades. Nearly 5,000 residents were evacuated from the northeastern region of Japan where the blaze began. Firefighters have been battling the fire for nearly a week. Japan's military has also stepped in to help, waterbombing the area to contain the flames. Japan's fire agency says the fire has spread over 26 square kilometers. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we take you to the German city of Mainz for the annual Rose Monday celebration, which features floats mocking politicians and world leaders. I'm Yvonne Young. Take care, and I'll see you next time.